It's early September and I'm out here on the St. Lawrence Seaway. We're in the Montreal area. There's hundreds of miles here of this St. Lawrence Seaway. It's a tremendous muskie fishery. Got potential for some of the biggest fish on the continent. That's kind of why I'm here. I hadn't been out here to see my good buddy Marc Thorpe. He guides this area here. He's a muskie legend in the area. The weather is not supposed to be kind to us though. We're supposed to have wind, kind of cold front situation. It's not going to be easy on us, but they do call him the Predator. And I've got confidence because he's the Predator, because he'll never stop.
We'll show you the next bite.
Just looking for the next bite, next bite, just looking for the next bite. Yes, we
We'll continue to show you the next bite.
At almost 2,000 miles long, the St. Lawrence River is the second longest river in all of Canada, and it has been the subject of many Quebec-based novels, poems, songs, television, and even 2 films by maritime pioneer innovator Jacques Cousteau.
But I think we're going to run 40 on the inside, no, 32 on the inside, maybe
32, that's pretty precise.
More importantly, however, for local Quebec muskie guide and conservationist Marc Thorpe,
I was going 4.8, but now I just hit some slack water.
and Esox expert and author Maina, the St. Lawrence is also known for producing some of the largest muskies in the world.
Always loved the chompers.
It's big muskies in big water with fast trolling and fast currents.
There's a common misconception about trolling for muskies. Some people think that it's kind of the lazy way to fish. I guess it can be. I mean, you can just go out and throw a couple rods out and eat sandwiches and drink drinks, but you're probably not going to catch many fish. The reality is, even though I personally prefer casting, if you're trolling right, you're working harder in most cases than you ever are going to be casting. Number one, you need somebody that's really, dedicated to driving the boat, especially in a situation like this. Somebody who's good, somebody who knows the structure, knows how to read the electronics. Marc here is the one in charge of that because he knows this fishery, but he's got extremely sharp edges to work here. He's dealing with current and he's dealing with waves. For that reason, we're actually using the big motor instead of the kicker so he can make turns precisely. The other thing we have is just a lot of weed bombs here. If you're just sitting down there eating a sandwich, you're not going to see the next weed bomb. You may not notice that that rod's not vibrating anymore in an individual weed. If you're standing up here like I am, you're watching, you can see a weed blob come. Sometimes you can steer a rod out away from that weed blob, and then it's your job to keep them clean.
Fish, 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 Pete! Watch them come right over the screen.
Really?
Yep.
Did you hear me? How much food you got? Because I was eating when she was eating.
15. 15 foot down.
Coming over this way. Whoa! She T-folding it. Oh, yeah. Angry. Look at that in that clear water.
Looks like a decent fish, eh, Pete?
Yeah, look at him growling. Whoa! All right, Marc.
Please pull.
Yeah, nice one, man. All right, when she came up right back there, the bait changed, but she had it just crosswise like a bratwurst, man. She was like, ah! Kind of took care of one hook, but we may want to replace that.
Well, we always like the headshots. Get you to grab that net. I'll put that bait away for us. You got the net, Pete?
Yep.
Move this away, out of our way.
It's the tagged one, dude.
It is?
Yeah.
Nice, like that.
The St. Lawrence Muskie tagging program has been going on for about 4 years, an effort Marc and other anglers are part of to observe everything from the spawning telemetry of these apex predators to aging charts based on collecting pelvic fin samples. This particular fish is part of the 4 to 5% that are typically recaptured during this ongoing fisheries study.
That's a bigger fish than I thought, dude.
Absolutely.
Look at that.
Monstrosity. Beautiful.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it, man. That was a cool hit. That thing just started peeling. All right. And boy, she's ready to go, guys. Oh, she's in good shape, too.
Spectacular swim off.
The next bite is brought to you by Mercury, #1 on the water. Amsoil, the first in synthetics. Tracker Boats, fish, the finest. Bass Pro Shops, your adventure starts here. Berkeley, catch more fish. Mustang, stay sharp longer. Lowrance, find, navigate, dominate. Motor Guide, never stop. Strike King, #1 in fishing lures. And Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. Although the weeds have been creating more work for Pete Maina and Marc Thorpe as they speed troll the open water of the St. Lawrence River in depths of around 25 to 30 feet of water, they are actually a necessary evil of their developing trolling pattern, as it appears that the muskies and their close cousins Esox lucius, or northern pike,
He smacked it. He's like, ooh, ooh.
are using the channel weeds along the breaks as cover.
Weeds, weeds, weeds. Everywhere you take me, Thorpe. Weeds.
Pete, I got a secret for you. Muskies don't grow in trees. They grow in weeds.
They grow in weeds.
Efficient catch and release is always a major factor when dealing with muskellunge. From in-water measurements to quick strike rigs, the main focus is of course having fun out on the water, but also the preservation of a low-density predator.
Here, you take that one, dude. I got him. Oh. Got him?
Yep, I got him.
Feel like a good one, dude?
I don't know, she picked it up subtly, Pete. Kind of picked it up and started swimming.
In this case, the target trolling depths paired with colder water temperatures have Marc and Pete facing an issue that is common to some fish who rise too fast, particularly under conditions like these during a hookup.
I'd say we got a little bit of swim bladder issues going on here.
Get that out of your head, dude. Ooh, he was gonna
Now
jump
he
right
came
on out
alive.
there.
Normally when they pull slowly like that, Pete, I just keep the boat moving to make sure that we can get another hook or two on him.
Right.
And you
Right.
know, but we can see this one's going through the swim bladder issue. He's upside
Yeah.
down like immediately.
Yeah.
Some basic info about swim bladders and how muskies use them. Basically, muskies got elongated swim bladders versus other species which are more oval. What happens is, in current areas, they'll fill up that swim bladder partially to get neutral buoyancy just above the bottom. Water, as it gets colder, gets more dense, so the swim bladder expands to compensate for water density and depth. All species use their swim bladders to compensate for depth, but current seems to be the issue with these muskies in the areas that I'm fishing, and I've been dealing with it for 25 years. The important thing is keeping that fish as straight as you can, and if possible, limiting out a water experience. I know it's always fun for people to see the fish, but that one, as soon as she hit it, she just bellied right up on us right away. So minimize all issues, and we saw it right there and then, so we just tagged her and let her go right there and then. It's always fun to take a good picture of them, but sometimes gotta do what's in the best interest of the fish.
Fishing information from real fishing experts, presented by Amsoil.
So I've always known that Structure Scan has had some really cool and useful features in it. The nice thing is that with the new touch screens, it makes all of those features that much easier to use. Let me give you a little example. First of all, you'll notice that this is scrolling along here. What you can do is simply drag backwards here and go back through your history. And you've got about 5 minutes of history that you can go back over. pick out something that you might want to look at in more detail. So let's take a look at this little clump of rocks right here. And just put my cursor right on that. The first thing that you can look at is, well, you know how far it is off to the side right here. You can also tell how deep it is. So if you're running some crankbaits over some rocks, you could tell, hey, maybe I should lift them up 2 or 3 feet from where I am because it's quite a bit shallower up in there. But what you can also do on this is once you do select something like this group of rocks, you can take and zoom in on them by simply using the zoom key here and get much higher detail. So if you wanted to try and see if there's a shadow behind the rock or not, you could see all of that. One of the other cool features you can do here is measure. You can simply hit the measure, start your measurement there, go to there, and you can see that this rock here is 6.2 feet, so pretty good sized rock. So again, I've always known there's some cool features on this, but with the touchscreen, you can get at them easily and efficiently and see all the data that it's giving you.
Well, we've spent a good part of this morning fishing a little bit more sheltered areas because we had some pretty strong wind and pretty big gusts. We moved out in a little bit more open water. I mean, the wind's still blowing quite a bit, but still manageable right now. Much more than this morning, and hopefully we'll get something going here.
The St. Lawrence River system may be home to some of the largest muskies in the world, but these fish are subject to the same idiosyncrasies indicative to muskies in any other freshwater lakes or rivers, no matter the size.
Thorpe, I'm having fun here in the waves, buddy.
And while Pete and Marc's approach to trolling this massive seaway has been fast, furious, and tenacious in upkeep.
Wow. Nice spots. She's got an interesting little divot on her back as she waves to the camera there.
The hours between bites are getting longer, indicating a need for adjustment somewhere in their pattern.
So what's interesting about it when you troll for that long is you know you're doing the right thing, you know the fish are there, you know you're in the right spot, all that stuff, but when nothing happens after a while, eventually you go from a stage where you're like, we gotta get something anytime, and then you go to a stage where you're like, I don't know if we're going to get anything anymore, and you almost kind of forget you're trolling. But we're continuing to work at it and trying different things, and then just all of a sudden the rod goes off.
It looks like with the midday wind finally backing off enough to allow safe access back out into the open waters of the channel, the needed adjustment seems like it's running the entire trolling setup a few feet deeper than was previously working yesterday.
Nice fish.
Oh, nice fish. Hooked a little funny.
You know, that front hook was kind of bent out. You know, sometimes do that. Swim alongside a bait and just hit them with their nose and end up with hooks in their cheeks or hooks underneath their chin. A lot of times what happens is those hooks will fold underneath when they hit like that. That's how they get hooked up. Okay, Pete, I'm just going to come in there and put the tag on that fish.
All right. Good. Okay, let's have a quick look at her. Go. Well, I'll tell you what, that's this one is gonna be a fatty. When she gets bigger, I shouldn't say gonna be, it already is. A great big fish, we better get her back. Boy, it's a strong one. One thing that's extremely important, of course, doesn't matter what you're fishing for, when you're trolling lures, you want to know how deep they're running. It's simply a patterning thing and a reproducing thing. A lot of times when you're out trolling and looking at the graph, there's a couple of things you're going to want to look for. One of them's just forage. You might be looking for the fish themselves, but also what they're eating in the water column. And also stagger different lures for when you start to try and pattern those fish. You may have a zone where you think most of them are, but you want to start above that and below that a little bit. So we use a super braid line, and I really like this Fireline tracer braid. No stretch, extremely thin, so it cuts through the water. You're getting depth immediately, maximum depth out of the line. It's 80-pound test, so nothing's going to break. So most people use line counter reels. That's probably the best way to go. But let's say you don't have a line counter reel and you still want to know exactly how much line you're letting out. This tracer braid is great for that too. It's in increments. You can see the difference here on the spool. One is going to be bright chartreuse and the other one's a real dark green, so it's real obvious, and all you need to do is obviously count those as they go out, and you can reproduce your trolling depths as well very easily with it.
Leading exciting information on tackle and techniques to make you a better fisherman. Presented by Mercury.
I bet you're wondering what I have on the back of this 17-foot aluminum boat. Those are power poles. Bass guys use them all the time. They're shallow water anchors. Basically, if you're under 8 feet of water, you can spike those things down. It looks like a giant claw going down, spikes right into the bottom and hold you steady, even in a pretty good wind. So if we're up here in the north, we'll use it for the same thing. Shallow water jig pitching to walleyes in the spring. When the panfish are shallow, it's just an anchoring system, works great. But what are those big wide paddles on the back? You don't see those often. And what they are is they're drift paddles. Now a drift paddle will take the place of your sea anchor. So for a walleye angler who's fishing in heavy winds, you don't have to carry those big bulky anchors anymore. It's attached right to the paddle. You lower it down into the water and it acts as a slowing down of the boat. I'm trolling as slow as this 115 4-stroke Mercury will go right now. And my GPS reads about 2.8, 2.9. If I want to try to troll slower than that, I'd have to use a kicker motor. And in some cases, you're looking at a lot more cost, or sometimes the boats are small enough you can't fit a kicker on the back. We could get a kicker on this boat, but just for purposes of showing you, I'm going to lower the drift paddles and the power poles down, and we'll see what happens to the speed of this boat. So we'll go ahead and put them down. Wow, it's pretty dramatic. I mean, I can feel it. It's going down 1, 3, 1, 2. I mean, it's all the way down to 1.2 miles an hour. Guys and gals, you could troll spinners on the Great Lakes or in any type of open water situation at that speed, 1.2 miles an hour, with 115 horsepower 4-stroke because of the drift paddles on those power poles. This is amazing because now, no matter what size boat you have, you can control the speeds to any speed that you want. It's cutting edge stuff for your smaller boat.
Offhand casting may be Pete Maina's preferred personal approach for fishing for muskies, but he and fellow ESOX expert Marc Thorpe are set on furthering the sentiment that aggressive trolling can be even more engaging when done correctly.
Pete, we got one.
All the while battling through just about every conceivable scenario in their pursuit for both capturing and gathering important data on the muskies that lurk in the depths of the St. Lawrence River channel.
One of the important things in this tagging project is to understand the dynamics of the population, understand the genetics of the population, and gender variables that exist. More males, more females, and the ratio between them both.
While the details surrounding the total hard data tied to the species in the area are important for the future of the fishery, heightened success for fishing them in the now relies on some familiar principles.
One of the best tips I can offer you is pay attention to those feeding windows. Sometimes those feeding windows will revolve around minors, majors that occur several times through the day. Other times it could be moonrise, moonset, sunrise, sunset. Little subtle changes such as wind increase, wind decrease. In spring, warming trends in the early morning sometimes can trigger fish activity. As fall progresses, cooling trends towards the evening may trigger fish. When you identify those key feeding windows, take full advantage of them, do your releases as quick as you can, and get back to work and try and catch another one.
One of the advantages to trolling, be it for muskies or even other species like walleyes, is the ability to mix things up on a lure or two to stay on top of possible changes in what the fish might respond to, especially during slower periods of activity.
Well, the good news about the pain and waiting part of muskie fishing, which unfortunately there's a lot of, is that eventually it ends. One thing that just had recently worked is actually with a really high bait, orange bottom and bright side. Marc's hollering at me again, hey, the rod's going off, and it was kind of interesting because I didn't think it was that big of a fish because when I turned around and saw the rod, I saw that rod bucket right away, and that's usually an indication of a smaller fish. All of a sudden, they decide they're in a better mood. Ooh, I can see her rolling around down here.
Fish pulls, stops, pulls, stops, puts on the growl. I grab the net, fish is on one side of the boat, swings to the other side. As I go to dip the net, I got hung up on the rod holder and just fumbled it. Hold on. Now I'm in a butterball of a mess.
And then what's so interesting is this water is just gin clear here. And that's when I started commenting to Marc, it's much bigger fish than I thought.
So we tagged this fish, and given the health of the fish, I decided to take a sample of DNA just to give us an idea of population dynamics throughout the river and see if there are any disparities amongst the families.
I wanted to get the mask off so everybody could see how happy I am that we got this nice fish. Oh boy, yeah, that's nicer fish than I thought, dude. Wow, neato. Always loved the chompers. All right, I better get her in, guys. Whoa. She's getting it together here, Marc. There she goes. Kind of right underneath the boat, but going down good. All right. That was a lot bigger one than I thought, man. That was cool.
Big nail, man. Big nail.
Yeah, that is a big nail. I gotta pee. Look at that. How long? I don't know what the girth is. Probably gonna get wet. We're probably gonna fall down. So he'll never stop.
You were supposed to say bite.
Wow! Whoopee! Here we go, Marc! Marc! It's awesome, thanks, man!
The next bite would like to thank Marc Thorpe of Marc Thorpe's Guiding Service. Be ready to leave your smiles on shore and check out Marc online at marcthorpeguiding.com.